Welcome to our In Focus discussion on International Women's Day. It's a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women around the world. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender equality. Tonight, we are joined by three incredible women in our local community for a live panel discussion for this subject. Joining us live in studio is Vaughn, founder and CEO of Melanin Squad, and Rosalba Dominguez, council member for the city of Murray. Also via Zoom, we have Nicole Carpenter, communications and operations manager for the Women's Leadership Institute. Thank you, all of you, for being here tonight, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so excited.
We'll start the first question with Sarah. Sarah, what does International Women's Day mean to you? Do we need a day to celebrate women, and why?
International Women's Day is a day for women around the world to be celebrated for their accomplishments and achievements and contributions they've made for all of us, and setting trends and being examples to all of us around the world. Like I said, for Black History Month, we don't need a month to celebrate being Black, but it's a great to recognize the impacts that Black people have. But as women, we should be celebrated every day because we are women every day, and so it's great to have a month to celebrate, but we should be celebrated all year round.
Well said. Nicole, what are some gender norms, misconceptions, or stereotypes that can hinder women from progressing to leadership roles in the community, and have you dealt with any of them?
Yes, that's a great question. You know, here in Utah, we deal with a lot of cultural norms that create problems, as well as unconscious bias. And these can create barriers for women who are hoping to move up in their careers. We have a lot of women in entry-level positions, but as they move up with their careers and decide to start families, often we lose those women in that process into moving into senior leadership positions. Unconscious bias might be when you have an employee who is ready to go on maternity leave and you just assume she won't come back, rather than working with her to create that game plan for her and your company. Or withholding a job travel opportunity or an advanced project to have her work on because you're trying to protect her from having to make that decision between her family and long work hours.
Yeah, the standards are really are so different between genders. Rosalba, how crucial is it to have women in leadership roles, and why?
Well, as RBG said, women should be in all places that decisions are being made, and I think about that all the time when I'm sitting on the dais as a council member, and it's important to have our voices heard. Whereas women, we will think about our elders, our children, and other women when it comes to decisions within municipalities or in all areas where choices are being made.
Nicole, let's get you to chime in on this. What do you think? How crucial is it to have women in leadership roles, and why?
You know, it's actually critical to a company's bottom line to have women in senior leadership positions. Not only does it increase return on investment, stock prices rise, and then you have a reduction in your loss of employees. You know, when women see women in companies, they stick around. They see a future for themselves in those organizations. Not to mention the benefit that it's doing to the next generation. Women need to see what they can be. So the more women we have in mid to senior level positions, the better we're even making things for the next generation.
Now, Rosalba, putting you in the spotlight, what attracted you to the work that you do now as a city council member for the city of Murray?
Well, I was always involved and interested in politics. It wasn't until former Representative Rebecca Chavez-Hauk retired that it really hit me that I needed to take on a leadership role within my community, and starting small and then going big from there. But I've always been surrounded by great women and leaders within my own friends and amigas that have encouraged me to really push and strive to do more for our communities, and really just take lead and really take a chance on myself. That's really what it came down to, is taking a chance on myself and saying, hey, I can do it too. If someone else can run in our community, so can I.
And Sarah, I want to know more about Melanin Squad. This is also an organization that works to amplify women in the community. Tell us what Melanin Squad is and what your objectives or goals are in the community.
Melanin Squad was created to create curated experiences and events for women of color living and thriving in Utah. And our goal is to create a safe space for women of color to be themselves, to be with other women of color that look like them, to hear from other women of color, and just to laugh together and have a good time. And so Melanin Squad selfishly has brought so much joy to me and be able to meet such amazing women in our community.
And Nicole, we'll go to you before we have to head to break. Tell us about what attracted you to the work that you do now at the Women's Leadership Institute.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I always believe that it's important for women to accomplish their professional dreams and goals and aspirations, regardless of whether they are wanting to raise a family or not. It's that balance between work and personal life that led me on this path to where I am. I love the mission that we have at the Women's Leadership Institute of elevating women in business and politics. And I feel like, especially in Utah, this is so needed because we just don't see all of the options that we have as women in companies, like in C-suites, and even in politics, right? We need to be able to see that path to success so that we can set an example.
3 women doing incredible things in our community. Ladies, hold that thought. We have to take a quick commercial break, but when we return, we'll resume our live panel discussion for International Women's Day. Thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight on International Women's Day. Before the break, we were joined by our panel, Sarah Vaughn, founder and CEO of Melanin Squad, Rosalba Dominguez, council member for the city of Murray. Also via Zoom, we have Nicole Carpenter, communications and operations manager for the Women's Leadership Institute. We pick up right where we left off. We'll start with you, Sarah. We know that there are already barriers and challenges that exist for us as women, but are there further difficulties as a woman of color?
Yes, of course. Especially living in Utah, we don't really see a lot of representation when it comes to C-suite leadership. Just walking down the street, we don't really see women of color, and having those examples are really important in that representation. And also when it comes to the gender wage gap, there's even a bigger wage gap for women of color. And there's just so many barriers when it comes to experiencing microaggressions in the workplace and having someone to go to and having advocates and support systems. Things have gotten better, but there's so much more change that needs to happen.
It can often feel like a double whammy being not just a woman, but a woman of color. And it's so true what you say about microaggressions, especially because some people are not conscious of the impact and the effect that microaggressions can have. Rosalba, let's hear from you. Are there further difficulties for you and do you think that there are as a woman of color?
You know, before I started freelancing, I was working at a mortgage company and I was managing a whole marketing section of our division, our regional division. And just by happenstance, one of my coworkers, who was my employee, started talking about his salary and how excited he was. And it made me reflect and realize that he was making more than I was, and I was his manager. But I was expected to train him and pretty much teach him how to do my job and to do the role that I was hired on to do. And it took me a while to really, address it with my boss. And it was really uncomfortable going in, day out, and having to say to myself, okay, this is still your job, be happy you have a job, and that you are going to continue to train this guy who's making more money than you, and still be proud in the work that you're doing.
And people wonder, why is Utah second to last in the nation for the gender pay gap? I can't believe that you had went through something like that. Let's turn to Nicole now. What are some things that we can do as a society and community to bridge the gender wage gap?
Sure. You know, I wish it was an overnight fix. Wouldn't that be nice? But it's not. It's complicated, and there's so many factors. In 2018, the Women's Leadership Institute worked with the Salt Lake Chamber, and we came up with a best practices guide to close the gender wage gap. And even that guide takes time to implement some of those strategies. But if you're a company, one thing that you can do is to list your salaries, not just the jobs that you have that you're hoping to hire for, but the salaries of the employees that you already have. You know, that way the employees can see if they are making the same as their colleagues. That's risky, but it's a great way to analyze your company and your gender wage gap. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're a female and you're interviewing for a position and you're afraid that you're walking into a situation where you're going to be paid less than your male counterpart, one tip is to negotiate a pay raise right there, or negotiate a higher salary when you start the job. Traditionally, women don't negotiate as much as men do, and often that pay gap starts off on the wrong foot. If a male and a female are both going for the same job and the female doesn't negotiate a higher salary, but the man does, then right away these two employees are starting off on different playing fields.
That is a very good tip. Knowledge is power, and when you bring that into a negotiation or an interview, you have to be confident in yourself and say, hey, I am just as capable as my male counterparts, and this is why I deserve to at least make as much as they do. So Sarah, what keeps you resilient, motivated, or persistent when you deal with setbacks, barriers, or challenges as a woman?
I think of my ancestors and the women that came before me, like Sojourner Truth and even the current women now, Michelle Obama, Stacey Abrams. I think of women that are paving the way for all of us and standing up for what they believe in. And it just keeps me going. Kamala Harris said, it really sat with me, she said, I eat no for breakfast. And no matter what doors get closed in front of me and what doors don't get open, I eat no for breakfast, and I keep going, and I push through those doors and create opportunities for myself. And just the amazing women in our community that continue to do the work and make change.
Our vice president is so fierce to say that I didn't, okay, first of all, I have not heard that quote from her. But when you hear it, you're like, that is so Kamala.
Right?
That is so Kamala. Rosalba, I want to hear from you. What keeps you resilient, motivated, or persistent when you deal with setbacks, barriers, or challenges as a woman?
Definitely my elders. You know, the women in my family are so fierce, and I was always taught that I can do things that men can do, if not better. So I always had that motivation of, I can do it too, watch me. But when it comes to setbacks, sometimes, you know, it can be hard. It can be disheartening. Sometimes I have to go into a room and cry silently. And my husband comes in and he reminds me why I'm doing this. And it's not just for me personally, but it's for my elders. It's for the youth. I went into this leadership role so I can go ahead and pave the way for others, as well as others have paved the way for me. And knowing that really gives me confidence in every day in what I'm doing.
Very important to have that support system. Ladies, hold that thought. We have to take another quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight on International Women's Day. We resume now our live panel discussion with Sarah, Rosalba, and Nicole. We'll start with Sarah. Sarah, who is a woman figure that you look up to or has inspired you along the way in the work that you do? It can be leaders, celebrities, trailblazers, colleagues, anybody.
I would say my mom. She is an immigrant to this country, and she worked in Rikers Island in Sing Sing. She was a drug and alcohol counselor. She was a great wife and a mom. And she's just a great example of me of pushing through and serving her family and her community. And that's why I am such a passionate community builder, because of her and her example.
Well said. Nicole, what progress have you seen in our community in regards to gender equality?
Yeah, one of the benefits of working with the Women's Leadership Institute is working so closely to hundreds of companies across the Wasatch Front, actually all across Utah, and watching as they work behind the scenes to make changes. Some examples that I can think of, when we first started working with the University of Utah School of Dentistry, they came to us because they wanted to find a way to have equal number of male and female dental students, and they were struggling. They had a much more men than women, and now just this last year they now have more women than men. So it's fun to see those behind the scenes changes that these companies are making. Workfront is another organization that we work with or have been able to work closely to see the change that they make in creating a culture that's full of diversity, starting with gender diversity. So it's fun to see the changes that all of these companies are doing. Unfortunately, on a national level, Utah still plays behind in all of these areas. So when I see every new statistic that comes out that doesn't show what I'm seeing businesses do, sometimes I am disheartened because I know that companies are trying to create better for themselves and for our communities.
Yeah, I think we do need to be reminded of the progress that we are making, because when we look at a study that says Utah is the second worst in the nation, it's pretty daunting. So I'm glad that we had you explain the progress that is taking place, even if it feels that it's slow, but at least it's there. Okay, Rosalba, what's your message to young women in our community?
Believe in yourself. Believe that you can do it. Rita Moreno said it best, or she wore a shirt that said, "I'm just a girl that just took a chance." And honestly, I encourage every woman to take a chance on themselves and to believe in themselves. And if there's questions and you want to open up a small online business or open up that restaurant you've always wanted, you can. And you know, I'm here, I want to be one of those women that is here to listen, to help guide and connect you to the right people, whether it's myself or somebody else that can help you along the way. I think that's important, that we as women help each other and elevate each other.
Well said. Sarah, what about you? What's your message to young women in Utah?
Don't compare yourself to others, and believe in who you are and know that you're on your own path. As my mom always says, your breakfast, not everyone's breakfast is ready at the same time. And so just enjoy where you're at and what journey you're on, and really know that you are going to reach your dreams and what you want in life and your goals, and to not compare yourself to your peers or your friends, and just enjoy where you're at.
Such a good reminder, especially in today's day and age with social media. I feel like us comparing ourselves with other women are at an all-time high right now. So very good reminder. Nicole, what about you? What's your message to young women in Utah?
Well, we've already had some great advice. What I might add to that is, if you see yourself, if you dream or aspire to something that you're not sure a female is capable of doing, or you haven't seen someone in that role, well, then be the first. Believe that you can do it. If you want it and you have that desire in your heart, then know that there is a path for you, and there will be mentors and sponsors along your way to help you get there.
That's correct. There's always somebody out there who's willing to take you under their wing. All right, this final question, again, is for everybody, and we'll start with Nicole this time. Nicole, what do you love the most about being a woman?
You know, as crazy as it sounds, I love the freedom to be creative, whether it's creative with a spreadsheet or a corporate strategy, or just finding creative ways to have fun with my family. I feel like that feminine quality that we as women have, we're able to just be free and create and enjoy and live in that beautiful world that we can create through our femininity.
Very true. Sarah, what about you? What's your favorite part about being a woman?
Our intuition. There's nothing like a woman's intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And when I listen to my intuition, I never go wrong. And so I think every man is jealous of a woman's intuition, because it's magical, and it never steers us wrong, and it has guided me in a lot of career decisions, relationship decisions, and just life decisions.
Well said. And women are always right. Right, everybody?
Yeah.
Rosalba, let's end with you. What's your favorite part about being a woman?
Definitely the sisterhood, my amigas, being able to have those relationships, and really my physical attributes that took me a long time to really appreciate, right? My hair, the grays that are coming in that I've earned, those are all things that I love about myself and being a woman.
I've learned to rock the grape, so I'm right there with you, sister. You've been hearing from Sarah Vaughn, founder and CEO of Melanin Squad, Rosalba Dominguez, council member for the city of Murray, also via Zoom, Nicole Carpenter, communications and operations manager for the Women's Leadership Institute. Thank you all for being here tonight to participate in an insightful discussion on International Women's Day. It was a pleasure to have all of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.